Like and subscribe right now, or this spider will crawl in your face while you're sleeping. For more than 400 million years, different species of complex life have roamed the various mountains and gorges, grasslands and plateaus, as well as rivers and oceans that form this breathtaking planet. Today, we might only grasp a sense of their might through the different fossil records collected, but there is so much more to their story than what meets the eye, and that's what we'll be taking a look at today. With that being said, let's recap 25 of history's most nightmarish extinct animals that would have made a meal out of you in mere seconds. Number 25. Leviathan Melville. You know a prehistoric monster is truly frightening when it's named after one of the most hellish creatures in the Bible. This creature was a giant sperm whale that could clock an impressive 18 meters in length. While it's more or less the same size as your average sperm whale today, it's the power that is truly awe-inspiring. For starters, the Leviathan has been recorded as having the largest bite force of any living tetrapod today. It could swallow a human being whole, and loved to make a meal out of other ancient whales that once roamed the sea. Leviathan dominated the ocean waters more than 12 million years ago, and it's safe to say that any surfhead out there would be glad to know that this creature went extinct. Number 24. ARCHAEOTHERIUM. With a nickname like the giant pig from hell, ARCHAEOTHERIUM was a cocktail of your worst nightmares. This giant pig-like creature stood at nearly 2 meters in length and was a combination of ferociousness, tenacity, and muscle. Its skull was over 3 feet long and had long jaws that were long enough to crush bones. So, it's no surprise to learn that ARCHAEOTHERIUM was actually an omnivore, making a meal out of prehistoric prey as well as having its fair share of ancient tubers. Can you imagine coming across an animal with the temperament of a hippo and the teeth of a saber-toothed tiger? Yikes. Number 23. Quetzalcoatlus. The Quetzalcoatlus was the largest flying dinosaur ever recorded in paleontology history. When the first fossil was discovered, scientists estimated that an average adult Quetzalcoatlus had a wingspan of about 45 feet. Despite taking to the skies more than 80 million years ago, Quetzalcoatlus fed on smaller dinosaurs on land, scavenged, and even fed on the eggs of larger, more dominant dinosaurs. Number 22. Tyrannosaurus rex. The Tyrannosaurus rex is no doubt the face of Hollywood. As one of the most awe-inspiring creatures of prehistoric times, this creature was truly terrifying. T-Rex stretched an impressive 40 feet from snout to tail, and was the apex predator of its time. It basically made a meal out of anything and everything it came across. Number 21. SARCOSUCHUS. SARCOSUCHUS was an ancient crocodile that lived in Africa about 135 million years ago. It was the largest giant crocodile that ever lived, almost twice the size of a regular saltwater crocodile. But despite its size, SARCOSUCHUS had a surprisingly slender snout and fed exclusively on fish. Nevertheless, seeing this fish swimming in prehistoric waters more than 100 million years ago must have been terrifying for any dinosaur going about their riverbank to drink. Number 20. Gigantosaurus. While it was initially thought that T-Rex was the largest meat-eating dinosaur after Spinosaurus in the world, paleontologists later discovered that Gigantosaurus was in fact the largest meat-eating dinosaur after Spino. Using fossil records, paleontologists determined that Gigantosaurus was 43 feet long and weighed 14 tons. It was truly a terrifying monster to behold, and probably deserves more credit than the famous T-Rex. Number 19. Terror birds. The terror bird was the largest carnivorous bird of all time. It stood an impressive 3 meters tall and was the apex predator in South America about 5 million years ago. These birds were extremely voracious predators with massive sharp beaks for tearing and consuming prey. Their superior hunting skills would have put any dominating dinosaur to shame. Number 18. Thylacosmilus. This was a 1.5 meter long marsupial that lived in South America about 2 million years ago. It weighed about 150 kilograms. It was an ambush predator with long canines that dug into its prey and lacerated the veins and arteries. Its skull was similar to that of a Smilodon, and it was the apex predator in South America at the peak of its lifespan. Number 17. TYRANNOSAURUS. TYRANNOSAURUS was a large theropod that lived about 70 million years ago and stood about 5 meters in height. This dinosaur is well known for having the largest claws in history. Because TYRANNOSAURUS was exceedingly slow, it relied on its massive claws to fight off predators by inflicting massive blows. Despite its intimidating size and terrifying claws, the Tyrannosaurus was actually a plant eater. Number 16. Tully monster. The Tully monster was a strange and mysterious vertebrate that lived more than 300 million years ago. At first glance, it resembled a slug with protruding eyes that truly made it terrifying. The creature had a pair of grasping claws, and it fed on smaller critters in the ocean depths. But one thing's for sure, it's hard to imagine that such a unique and weird creature once roamed these ocean depths. Number 15. Giant short-faced bear. If you know that modern grizzly bears were terrifying and intimidating, then think again. History knows of the short-faced bear, a 12-foot-tall monster that could clock an impressive 40 miles an hour. Because of its short face, it had powerful jaws that could crush bone with its devastating bite force. Truly, hell hath no fury like a prehistoric bear on steroids. Number 14. Helicopryon. Helicopryon was the apex predator in the world's oceans about 300 million years ago. A distant relative of sharks, this carnivorous nightmare had a distinct lower jaw consisting of spiral, razor-sharp teeth that could easily tear through flesh with a single bite. I mean, if you thought the giant sharks from Jaws were scary, then wait until you get a load of this. Number 13. Spinosaurus. Spinosaurus was the largest flesh-eating dinosaur of all time. This fear-inducing monster was characterized by a long sail-like plate on its back. While it clocked in at over 50 feet in height and weighed up to 25 tons, it is widely believed that Spinosaurus rarely hunted and actually fed on fish in nearby lakes and rivers. Number 12. Liopleurodon. Liopleurodon was the biggest and most intimidating aquatic monster of the late Jurassic. This 25-meter giant was the apex predator of the high seas, consuming anything and everything in its path. It had long jaws that hosted a row of needle-sharp teeth that meant even giant crocodiles and ancient fish of the time were all on its menu. What's even more messed up was that these ancient creatures' highly sensitive noses allowed them to smell other creatures underwater. Even if you hide behind a coral reef, this predator would for sure find you. Number 11. Daedon. This terrifying creature inhabited the lands of North America more than 29 million years ago, and must have been an intimidating sight to see for any creature that came across it. An adult Daedon had a 3-foot skull atop lengthy, slender limbs. One distinctive feature of the Daedon was that this foot possessed only 2 toes. With giant crushing jaws and a face with 2 distinctive tusks, the Daedon was every creature's worst nightmare. Can you imagine those tusks digging into your guts? Number 10. ARTHROPLEURA. Considered the pioneer of the different species of millipedes and centipedes that currently roam the earth, ARTHROPLEURA was a terrifying beast, especially if you're the type of person that suffers from insectophobia. Imagine coming across a giant millipede, the height of an NBA center, and then some. This prehistoric nightmare-inducing creature was so massive that it was rarely attacked by any predator of its time, despite the fact that it was an invertebrate. It lived more than 300 million years ago, during the Carboniferous period, a period well known for producing giant insects on steroids. Number 9. DUNKLEOSTEUS. We take you back more than 300 million years ago, to a time when fish were the apex predators of the sea. And at the top of the food chain was DUNKLEOSTEUS, a unique species of ancient fish well known for their voracious appetite. These fish were massive. In fact, DUNKLEOSTEUS was the largest of all placoderms that roamed the earth. These were a distinct version of an armored fish that ruled the sea. They boasted lengths of up to 30 feet and possessed an armored face. What was even more impressive about these ancient fish was their bite force. The fish was believed to have one of the strongest bites of its era, tearing through prey like a knife through butter. Fossil evidence also shows that DUNKLEOSTEUS regurgitated all the bones of the prey it consumed because its stomach did not have the capacity to digest them. I guess that must have been an ugly sight to come across, right? Number 8. Opabinia. If you think the creatures from Alien are freaky, then wait until you come across the Opabinia. It's like the chest burster and Stitch from Lilo and Stitch had a baby. This weird creature possessed an oddly segmented body, with lobes all in its side and a strange fan-shaped tail. Yep, it was like looking through a window of the Twilight Zone. You're wondering about the Stitch reference, huh? Well, this creature possessed 5 strange eyes, a mouth under its head, and a weird proboscis. And its head was facing backward. Yeah, that's right. Nature just doesn't make them this scary anymore. A bobinia most likely lived on the ocean floor and ate small invertebrates that lived during its time. Hate to say it, but being a tiny creepy crawler during this time sucked. Number 7. Eurypterid. Commonly referred to by paleontologists as giant scorpions, the Eurypterid was what you would get if you took your average arthropod and pumped it with a whole bunch of hormones to make it bigger and badder. I'm talking about GIGANOTOSAURUS, a species of Eurypterid that lived more than 400 million years ago. It grew up to 8 feet in length and was quite the active predator on the ocean bed, as well as a scavenger and would consume anything and everything it came across. Number 6. Basilosaurus. An apex predator of the sea, Basilosaurus was one of the most dangerous primitive whales of ancient times and lived about 55 million years ago. It reigned supreme thanks to its domineering stature, a massive head and an impressive length of about 21 meters. Basilosaurus consumed nearly every prehistoric sea creature in its wake. Number 5. SMILODON. Clocking in about the size of an average male lion, the SMILODON was one of the largest ancient creatures that lived during the same time as modern man, more than 10,000 years ago. It was characterized by enormously large canines that could penetrate skin, but the canines were surprisingly weak despite their massive size. A majority of SMILODON fossils show broken canines as a result of biting into their prey. SMILODON was known for its enormous appetite and reportedly fed on ancient horses and ungulates of the time. Number 4. TITANOBOA. At 40 feet, TITANOBOA is the largest prehistoric snake of all time, and nearly twice the size of the modern python of today. To this day, paleontologists are still mystified as to how and why TITANOBOA grew to such a massive size. Aside from its domineering size, TITANOBOA was a voracious predator that constricted its prey before swallowing them whole like modern constrictors. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to be an inch near these guys, even if I had a time machine. Number 3. Megalodon. The Megalodon is not only considered one of the most physically dominating sharks in history, but is a clear contender for the title of largest fish to ever swim these ocean waters. According to fossil records, the Megalodon grew to about 18 meters in length, about 3 times the size of your average adult great white. Megalodon had impressive teeth, about 18 centimeters in length. The shark was an expert hunter, feeding on the flesh of smaller sharks and prehistoric whales swimming the oceans of the time. Which now brings us to the best pick of the day. Pound for pound, the Megalodon is history's most dominating shark. Obviously, this picture is fake because the Megalodon went extinct about 2 million years ago. But you can see just how dangerous these giant sharks could have been if they lived during our time. They could, in all honesty, bite a hauling ship in half. I'm not sure if they would break it though. Number 2. Meganeropsis. To this date, this ancient dragonfly is considered the largest known insect of all time. As a prehistoric predator, it consumed much smaller insects, which, to be honest, were still pretty big at the time, and dominated way before dinosaurs burst onto the scene. According to estimates, the griffinfly had a body length of about half a meter long and a wingspan of about 0.75 meters. It was quite the specimen to behold. Number 1. VELOCIRAPTOR. VELOCIRAPTOR was a small carnivorous animal that lived during the late Cretaceous period, right before the great dinosaur extinction. And contrary to what Hollywood depicted in the Jurassic Park movie, VELOCIRAPTOR was actually a feathered dinosaur that clocked in at about 100 pounds. The creature was about the size of a modern-day wolf, and preferred to hunt using their claws to grasp their prey before tearing into their flesh. Despite its small size, it was a formidable predator and hunted prey nearly twice its size. And with that being said, we've come to the end of this video. Bet you won't sleep tonight, huh? Let us know in the comment section down below which prehistoric beast in our list is worthy of its own Hollywood horror today. Thanks for watching, and stay safe.